Hello and welcome to Astrology Rising. Today's video is about how US presidential elections played out during the Great Conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn from 2000 to 2020. It formed the backdrop to all that happened in those 20 years. We'll see where the Great Conjunction of 2000 fell in each president's chart. Why is this important? It can help to show us how the current presidential cycle from 2020 to 2040 is likely to play out. In the time of the last Great Conjunction from 2000 till December 2020, 3 different presidents were in power. So let's take a look at each president's chart. A quick note here. Joe Biden became president-elect in this last stage of the cycle and resumed office as president in the new cycle. So in a way, his natal chart belongs to both cycles. I'll take a look at that in a later video. As we can see from this diagram, each president was elected in a very different stage of the cycle. George Bush came into power at the beginning stage, Barack Obama at the outgoing and incoming Trine stage, and Donald Trump in the closing stage. Looking at the moment of the Great Conjunction, we see that not only are Jupiter and Saturn in the fixed Earth sign Taurus, but so are all the angles in fixed signs, also known as a fixed grand square. This says conservative ideas are key to how this era would unfold, and that the acquisition of material possessions and economic success for the country will be very important. As you'll see later in this video, those who are elected as president all have a major resonance with the Great Conjunction chart and/or those angles. So the conjunction took place in May 2000, when Al Gore was running as the Democratic presidential candidate and George Bush as the Republican candidate. George Bush won his party's nomination and then the presidency in November of that year, despite a heated debate and a Supreme Court intervention. So his presidency began not long after the Great Conjunction in Taurus. Many astrologers have called this the seed phase of the new mini-era, when all things are new, all plans seem possible, and great ideas abound. Now let's see how all the men who became president in this cycle have ties to the Great Conjunction. First up, George Bush. We see that the Great Conjunction itself, the red oval, fell in his 10th house of career, representing his rise in status onto the world stage as president. And if you use the US independent chart, it has a sun at 12 Cancer, which is conjunct his natal sun. So Americans who voted for him saw him as being kind of like them. Let's take a closer look. His natal north node, the purple oval, is conjunct Fortuna of the Great Conjunction. So good fortune for him in this time. Mars is lord of his 10th, his midheaven, and Mars of the Great Conjunction at 17 Gemini is also conjunct his north node. His natal north node is conjunct natal Uranus and brings unexpected events. In this case, the election and therefore his win being decided by the Supreme Court. In addition, the lord of his ascendant at 7 Leo is the Sun. His ascendant is sextile the Sun of the Great Conjunction, the purple dotted line. So it seems it was indeed his destiny to become president. Next, Barack Obama, a Democrat, became president at the outgoing Trine phase of the Great Conjunction cycle. This is when people have begun feeling optimistic again, especially after the difficulties of the square of Jupiter and Saturn that began in 2005. All things now seem possible and doable again after the mess of the global financial crisis. Remember, his campaign slogan was, "Yes, we can." As we can see, the ascendant-descendant axis of the Great Conjunction is conjunct his natal north node and Uranus. The Great Conjunction itself, the bottom red oval, is in his third house of communication, amongst other things, conjunct his natal IC. He became known as the Great Communicator, known all over the world for his oratory, which fits well with the Great Conjunction highlighting this area of his chart. See how the lords of his ascendant and midheaven, which are his natal Saturn at 25 Capricorn and Mars at 22 Virgo, the blue ovals, both trine the Great Conjunction, the red circle, as I said. He, as the man, and his status were in tune with the Great Conjunction. We know that Barack Obama faced huge challenges as president, since Saturn usually brings heavy responsibilities. And this is reflected in the fixed square that the Grand Conjunction forms to his natal ascendant-descendant at 18, Aquarius and Leo. A closer look. Note how the moon's nodes of the Great Conjunction at 25 Cancer and Capricorn are also strongly aspecting the lords of his ascendant and midheaven, which are Mars and Saturn, by conjunction, trine, and sextile, the blue lines. Also note how the ascendant of the Great Conjunction is conjunct his natal north node in Leo. So it seems he was destined to become president at that time. Barack Obama's presidency ended just after the incoming square. As the square approaches, it's a time when people are feeling worn out and maybe dissatisfied by all that's gone before. The new face, new place, give us something different phase is usually what people want at this time. Donald Trump won the presidency just a few months after the incoming square, in the closing stage. Note how both Jupiter and Saturn are in mutable signs, Virgo and Sagittarius, again echoing the idea of the voters wanting a big change. The last phase of the cycle is the most difficult phase, because the cycle is dying out, even though we're still in it. All the plans, ideals, and ideas that began the cycle are still there, but things have changed since 2000. And there's a push-pull happening between what we have now and what we had before. Wanting a do-over, getting back to the promise of what 2000 brought at the beginning of the cycle, becomes popular again. Make America Great Again was his campaign slogan, which can also be seen as wanting the promise of the Great Conjunction back again. Here we have the natal chart of President Donald Trump, whose natal ascendant is tightly conjunct the ascendant of the Great Conjunction. See how his natal Mars conjunct the ascendant is also conjunct the Great Conjunction ascendant, meaning a fiery leader who pulls no punches, being indicated here. It also almost says, I am the Great Conjunction of this time and it is me. In addition, his midheaven is tightly conjunct the Great Conjunction itself, which tells us that despite the fixed grand cross it forms, and despite huge controversy, he was the one people wanted as their president. And like George Bush, it shows a big rise in status onto the world stage. We could speculate that if he had run for president earlier in the cycle, he might easily have won the nomination then. As it turned out, he was president in the last stages of the cycle, which, as I have said, is the dying phase. A closer look. See how the north node of the Great Conjunction is also conjunct his natal Venus-Saturn conjunction, where Venus is the lord of the midheaven, the blue dotted lines. Venus and Saturn, women and men alike, especially older men, voted for him. Both of these natal planets form a sextile with the Great Conjunction itself, showing us once again that this was his destiny. So it seems that whoever wins the White House must have a strong connection to the Great Conjunction that forms the main backdrop of the 20-year period. The next Great Conjunction period runs from 2020 to 2040, so we have ample opportunity to find out. So if you found this video insightful, Please feel free to add your comments and also like or subscribe. Thank you for watching.